Their contested possession, their work around the footy has been really good. Can they finish it off? It's been a monumental performance, or have the Dockers got just another little shot to fire?
Final quarter underway. Lee Montagna scrambles a kick towards half forward. Coming to meet at Brett Peake. That was a brilliant little paddle back for Schneider. He kicked 3 in the third quarter. Vacant goal square, and it's bounced through. Oh, it's St Kilda's day. Schneider's got 4 all in the second half, and everything they've done today has turned to gold. And look at the little back paddle there from Brett Peake, and the finish from Schneider. And St Kilda's lead out to 53 points.
Well, here's the answer to the question I was posing at the start of last quarter. Great little back pedal there from Brett Peake. And Adam Schneider, he is just a gun. So smart with the footy. He knew as soon as he kicked it, always thought that was on target. He backpedaled. Yep, that's going to bounce through. First goal to the Saints. No chance now for the Fremantle Dockers. Too far to come back from
You'll
here.
Walk the nullarball with me, Dave.
Yeah, I just about will, I reckon, from here.
I am calling it.
They haven't looked like it. We're trying to make a case, Tim, but not going to happen today.
Mundy climbing into the ruck, fisting it back up into the air. Dockers come out of it with a free to their leader, Matthew Pavlich. Tried to work his way through. In the end, had to prop and kick, and Blake just read that beautifully. The Saints playing with supreme confidence today. Blake takes it wide to Armitage's call, and he picked it up and clung to it low down. St Kilda by 53. Fremantle have kicked 4 for the day and would need at least 9 in the last quarter if they were to work the miracle. Sam Fisher for Revolt. McFarlane with him. Revolt goalless.
In fact, McFarlane's done a wonderful job this afternoon. Just 9 disposals for Revolt.
Trying to think of another Fremantle player that you could say has won his position or been on top today. Luke McFarlane has just pointed out, Chris, he's been really good on Nick Revolt. Apart from that, can't give you another one who's been better than their opponent.
Revolt hurriedly into the forward 50, and a boundary throw in between half forward and the pocket.
That's a great sign as well for St Kilda to have their star, really still working hard. You know you're going to get that effort from Nick Revolt. He's playing on a really good player. He's leading up, he's creating space out the back, and they've got a lot of goals from their midfielders.
Armitage looking to get the hands clear. Handball a little fierce in the end. Griffin. Now he's dragged that back under. He gets it out just in the nick of time. Chance for Stephen just standing off the pack. Dempster, the flying snap at goal, is offline. 54 points now, and even 9 goals.
And all their role players as well, just stepping up. Sean Dempster doing the sort of job that he's made a name in the game for, taking Hayden Ballantyne out of it, and then able to still get the footy when it's his turn to do so. Clinton Jones has been really good on Stephen Hill. McAvoy stepping up the rucks, had a good game as well, so it's been a pretty polished performance from the Saints.
Dylan Robertson, the substitute for Fremantle. Long ball, but Gilbert plucking it. He had plenty of company. Pavlich was there, Griffin was there, and Gilbert came down with it.
He's the next one that is just starting to show some signs, Sam Gilbert, that he's getting his confidence and his energy and enthusiasm back. He's had a horror time in the game, Sam Gilbert. He's had all the issues in the off-season, probably affected by it maybe more than anyone else, but over the last few weeks, and particularly today, really looking as though he's enjoying his footy again.
This will be a bonding win for St Kilda in very oppressive conditions against the odds. Mundy, quick kick to Palmer. Force short to Johnson. Wilt just a metre behind has been good for St Kilda down in the back half. And the Dockers retreat. And the crowd express their derision of this. I think they really would expect their team just to attack and try and do something on the scoreboard. Ibbotson, Grover, sweeping it to the running Robertson inside. Bounce eluding him, and the steal is on. And it is one of countless that have been made in midfield today by the Saints. And oftentimes they've hurt on the scoreboard once they've achieved it. Milne working back beyond the centre. Revolt, the only man standing at half forward. Ibbotson the crumb for Fremantle. Off to De Boer. He was in space and yet instinctively was looking left and right before taking off. Such is the bunker mindset of the Dockers. And look where it's gone.
Perceived pressure, Tim. You called it exactly right. De Boer immediately thought, I'm going to be set upon. And he was glancing over his shoulder, took his eye off and his concentration and focus away from what he needed to do. And he's missed a 10-metre target, kicked it straight out of bounds.
Fair man up was Duffield, but Griffin was able to get it down. Duffield finds it at ground level. Robertson. Oh, did he need to get rid of it quickly? Well, he got away with it with a handball to De Boer, but they're under pressure. 3-metre kick to Duffield, who chips it, and the mark's taken by Griffin. Now, he thought about giving it to his captain, but he goes back and kicks it beautifully onto the chest of Johnson. That's better. And he's marked just inside attacking 50 for the Dockers.
A good kick there from Jonathan Griffin. Probably an area of his game when he was at the Adelaide Crows that he wasn't renowned for. Michael Johnson just quite seemed to be the player he was a couple of years ago.
Now, short kick towards Palmer. He's got it. Dragged down by Farron Ray, but Palmer will kick from 40 metres on a reasonably acute angle, you can see. And just reckon if you're Reece Palmer, you'd be showing a little more urgency at the moment. If they are any chance, they need to be up and about, a bit more busier than what Palmer's is at the moment, taking plenty of time with this opportunity. Just 4 goals for the year. And that one's a straight one, so the Dockers have goal number 5. Margin back to 48 points. Palmer kicks his first goal of the afternoon, his 5th for the year. And the Dockers are able to bring it back and reply to that early goal from Adam Schneider.
Disappointed fans, and that's what they've got ahead. They've got to go to Melbourne and meet Hawthorn. That looks unlikely. They play Essendon here, but they've lost, if we count today as a loss, 3 of their 5 encounters at Patterson Stadium for the season. So these games aren't the gimmies we imagined they might have been for Freo. They could lose their next couple and be losing touch with the 8. Here goes Ibbotson for Fremantle. Awkward little half volley, claimed by Palmer and paid. Now, I think that's a legitimate step over the mark by Stephen Milne. Cheeky as ever, you'd never know whether he was foxing, but the umpire was convinced. Griffin now, and Lower marked it well and swings it long for Main in a difficult spot. First he had to mark it, then he had to try and kick a goal from there. It was never going to be a really good spot for the ball to go to.
But even Lower, I mean, if you're going to pull the trigger, why do it deep in the forward pocket where it's so easy to defend and going to go out of bounds? Put it into the dangerous position. They've just made poor choices consistently throughout the game, the Dockers.
Gwilt, well tackled by Main, going nowhere, so a bounce 25 metres from goal. Michael Barlow expected to return in the WAFL next week. So
saw him walking the boundary line downstairs before, Chris, so, and he's looking fit and up and running. It'd be great to see him come back. Horrific injury that he suffered.
Ray with the football. Now, did he make a genuine attempt? No, he's going to get a free kick here to the umpire. The umpire's going to give a free kick to the Dockers against Farron Ray.
It's a free kick. He dragged it in. It's a free kick.
Dragged it in. You heard the umpire.
It's on you to knock it out if you drag it.
Saints players are saying he didn't have the ball, and you're really remonstrating, Lee Montagna.
So the free kick to Broughton, who kicked a goal in the 3rd quarter, which was just his 2nd goal of the year, with an opportunity for number 2. Just 20 metres, perhaps 25 from goal, 45-degree angle. He pops it through. And the margin back to 42 points, 9 minutes into this final term, as we'll watch the replay again. Now there's Ray. Now he drags it under there. and it's his responsibility. We heard the umpire say it's his responsibility then to knock it out once he drags it in. I think that's probably fair enough.
Are the Saints starting to mount their charge? Well, it will be tested over the next 3 weeks before some well-needed respite. Collingwood, the Bulldogs and Geelong. Life doesn't get any easier. And they're going to be flattened after this day. It's been warm. Here they go. Peak, been dangerous for them. Receiving Montagna, but the kick poor. McFarlane picking it off. A winning defender back there for Fremantle, Luke McFarlane. On Revolt. Extraordinarily, the Saints have come here relying so much as they do on Revolt and Milne. They haven't kicked a goal between them. Anthony Grover's had the job on Stephen Milne. And you'd have thought if they were returning a stat like that, Fremantle would have been well on their way to a win, as opposed to a flogging. Peak, high ball, Lynch. Van Berlo there too. Jones the crumb, Armitage the snap, just offline.
That for me is another positive as well, Tim. Getting an even contribution from particularly their midfielders. Good chase there from Revolt and McFarlane. Haven't relied, as you said, on their two big gun forwards. It's been a real team effort. What a great forward pressure. And again, that was good chase from Revolt to cause this one.
Winmar wide, Milne the target. Oh, gee, outpointed Crowley and snaps at goal and kicks it. So the first goal of the afternoon, almost on cue for Stephen Milne, and the margin back out to 49 points. And too good in the one-on-one contest there with Ryan Crowley.
I think that's been great about Milne today, and Revolt for that matter. Milne's had a couple of tackles, 8 of his possessions have been contested, but it's just been his presence, it's been the way that he's stayed in the game, his body language has been great.
Prior to today, Milne had 18 goals for the season. Revolt 14, next best for the Saints. Then it was Schneider 8. Cripps out injured today, 7. We're told he's going to miss the season, which is very bad news for the Saints. And then Jack Stephen 5. But today the midfielders have got among the goals, and Adam Schneider made a big contribution since half-time. The Saints leading by 49 points. On their way to their 3rd win, plus a draw from 9 games, and starting to at least put themselves into a statistical position from where they could make the 8. Here's Mzungu, and that was good to Robertson, the sub, drew the tackler, released Johnson from on the 50, well wide.
Disappointing effort there from Michael Johnson as the Saints bring it in to Del Santo. Good setup by the Dockers, and he couldn't quite finish it. Del Santo content just to kick along the line to a contest. In front almost. Mark taken by Robertson, but the ball tied up and a bounce half forward for the Dockers.
Leading disposal gatherers on the ground there, Chris. So Nick Del Santo has got the job done, spent some time in defence and around the midfield. Broughton and Mzungu for Fremantle. Been impressed with Jack Stephen, who you saw there on the 4th line today. Had a heap of the footy in the first half and really committed himself to this contest.
Revolt coughs it up under pressure to Mundy, and they bring it away. Van Berlo combines with Bradley. Now they kick the centre half forward. Chase on here, Ballantyne and Gilbert does it brilliantly. They're away. Del Santo needs to and wanted to draw a player and give it to Jones, but he cuts him board instead because he's got a spare man. Stephen, and coming through Ibbotson fiercely. Van Berlo can't control it. Well done, Armitage. Got the arms clear to try and give it to Polo. Dockers do well. The ball ridden into the ground, and the umpire letting it go on. Chance at ground level for Van Berlo. Little fumble. Dawson does well. Gilbert towards Del Santo, knocked back by Jones into the path of McAvoy. He can't get it to a teammate. Ballantyne, he can't control it. Well done by McAvoy, this time to Dempster, to Montagna, and he chips it to Lynch, who played on. Now to Del Santo. Sweeps the handball wide to Stephen, who's good to see recovered from that hit just a few moments ago. Stephen from hard up against the line, kicks a wonderful goal. Well, Ibbotson almost knocked him into next week, but just a few moments later, he kicks a wonderful goal from deep on the boundary line at right half forward, extending the St Kilda lead out to 55 points.
This is as good a performance as I think Jack Stephen has put together in 15 games. I reckon Jack Stephen in game number 16, this has been his best performance. 22 disposals, great goal there from the boundary line. You saw his courage before, went back with the flight. He's really committed his body into the contest, and that will really please Ross Lyon. He's getting games into Stephen. He's got Nicholas Winmar out there. Some fresh faces providing some energy here for the Saints.
Sort of weather Jack Stephen would enjoy down at Lawn, where he comes from. He's playing a footy match in the heat for St Kilda on the other side of Australia. But I reckon it might be the sort of weather that's really brought out the best in the Saints. They've girded their loins and committed themselves for a huge effort. And it has absolutely overwhelmed Fremantle. It's reduced them to very mediocre status. They're a scoring chance here, but not for long. Del Santo's been excellent to Gilbert and back. Gilbert giving it up here. And Broughton swings it around the corner, but not far enough around the corner. And it'll be coming back.
So disappointing there from Broughton. And Jason Blake with the free kick in the back pocket. A few Fremantle Dockers had enough. Kick to half back. Griffin at the back couldn't take it. Chance for Lower. He's well tackled by Schneider. And another bounce half forward for the Dockers. Saints led by 25 at quarter time, by 45 at the long break. 47 was the margin at three-quarter time, and they've got it out to 55 points. Jones scrambles it forward, playing in front. Lynch. Kick towards half forward. Milne did brilliantly on the half volley. Handball just a little behind Revolt. Socket forward by Milne, only as far as McFarlane, who's been Fremantle's best. Handball, though, wasn't great to Mundy. Got the numbers. Lower. Grover back to Mundy. Not too much on. Squeezes the kick to Bradley, who did well to pick it up on the half volley, but his kick brilliantly smothered by McAvoy, who's done a pretty good job. McAvoy coming in for Kazitsky this afternoon, and we'll get a boundary throw in on centre wing.
Another little St Kilda victory. Well done by McAvoy. Contesting with Griffin. Farron Ray becomes a ruckman for St Kilda. Eventually the Dockers work it out. Mundy getting a kick forward. Gwilt getting rid of Robertson, though, and then covers the spilling ball, giving to Del Santo. Look at the seating in the background. Just about half the crowd's left. This is a dark day for the Fremantle Dockers. Here goes Stephen again. Thought about the shot from the centre after the last effort. Wisely decided against it. Gets involved again to Revolt. Lobbing it in the Lynch direction. Mundy with him. Crashing in hard came Gilbert. Peaked there too for the Saints. Now Schneider. Crowley over him. And the umpire's going to come in and ball it up.
Tommy Lynch there just might have popped a finger out in that contest, and good to see him in his second game there. Really cracking it hard after that footy.
Bounce half forward for the Saints. Ray. Now boundary throw in.
It's all the more impressive, isn't it? Brendan Goddard, we know, he's in hospital with a neck injury. He was their best player in the first quarter. And so if you had to have asked Fremantle who would you most like to have had come out of the game, I reckon it would have been Brendan Goddard. And this whole side that's been out there today from St Kilda really just been consistent in their efforts right across the four quarters of this match.
Fremantle work it out of defence. Not the greatest of kicks by Pavlich, but it ends with Van Berlo, who chips it to the run of May. Now no one ahead of him from 48. He measures the kick and kicks another behind. So not the greatest of days for Chris Mayne this afternoon. Just 6 disposals and a couple of behinds. Margin 54 points in favour of St Kilda.
Long ball, Gwilt. Fife, very quiet today. Duffield, Johnson, Pavlich, blazes from a long way, kicks well. Too little, too late.
Disposal number 20 for the skipper. His first goal. It really hasn't been a memorable afternoon for Matty Pavlich. But Sam Fisher following him around for most of the afternoon. It's a good match-up physically, those two. But I think Saints will be pretty happy with Sam Fisher's job.
Mark Harvey will be really disappointed with what his team's produced this afternoon. Saints lead by 8 goals. Give that one to McAvoy. Crashing in Mill. McAvoy continues to fight on at ground level, as does Griffin. Not coming out, and another bounce.
It'll be a hard one to assess for Mark Harvey after the game as to the reasons why, and you never really can put your finger on what happened today. But right from the first bounce, it was just a lack of intensity, real lack of commitment to the contest, and they haven't ever been able to get it back.
Chance for Fife. He has a bounce, runs to 55, and kicks long towards goal. Gee, that had some carry on at the kick, but offline through for another behind. Margin 47 as it was at 3/4 time.
Ball mark just above the chalk by Montagna. Still the margin 47 points. And Fremantle's hopes long gone. St Kilda's footy here. Breakaway on, and it's that man Jack Stephen. It looks as though he must have been doing some heat training. He's running this out better than most, playing a very good last quarter. Grover has mastered Milne today. Not that Milne has failed to make a contribution. Has managed just the 1 goal late in the piece, but the fact that Grover has restricted him from inflicting damage on the board is a major victory. There have been too few of those for Fremantle. Duffield getting it to Mundy. He goes sideways to Ibbotson for the Dockers, and he has another call sideways, and this one comes from Broughton. Taken the long way there. Johnson. Really a shockingly disappointing day for Fremantle. St Kilda have played very well, no doubt about that. Johnson blazes out on the full, so gives the ball up again. But if Fremantle are to be a serious sort of contender, they've got to be able to do much better than this. This has been an absolute hiding at the hands of the Saints, and there hasn't been a great deal of honour about the defeat. Dempster gives to Del Santo as the Saints now toy with the Dockers.
It's something that they've been really wanting to move on from Fremantle. Inconsistency of effort. In the past, they've had great wins, and you go, this is a different side, Fremantle. We know we can count on them to at least dish up a really good, hard performance each week. So this is a real step back for them as a group under Mark Harvey. You can get beaten by a better side when you commit yourself fully, but I think that will be the question today. Why did we turn up and really lack the effort and intensity required to play an AFL game?
Chance for Lower. Feeds the handball to Robertson, the sub, and he kicks inboard, and the mark's taken by Palmer. Can kick across the ground. Loose player is McFarlane, who's been Fremantle's best. Around Stephen, and then very wide with the kick. Gathered by Fife. Right on the boundary line. Feeds it back to in the direction of Crowley, but handball missed the mark. And again on the rebound, the Saints, Armitage, Ray, wide, and the mark taken by Stephen. He decides just to
He's been great, Chris. Jack Stephen coming up for disposal number 26. Kicked a really good goal in this quarter as the Saints now decide just to take some of the heat out of this last 3 or 4 minutes. They'll be really tired with their efforts, but given the fact that they've had such a good 3 seasons, one of the downsides has been they haven't had to inject many new players into the side. It's been a very hard team to break into. And Jack Stevens, an early draft pick. It's only his 16th game. Nicholas Winmar gets another game of experience. Tom Lynch plays his 2nd game today. So if they can win, improve and play new players, that is all good for St Kilda.
Stephen Hill drives it long inside attacking 50. Main in from the side. Gilbert. Broughton applying some pressure. Oh, it was pushed in the back by Dawson. That was crude. And a free kick will come back to Broughton.
The only real negative will be, and concern will be, around Brendan Goddard, and let's just hope and pray that he goes and finds out that there's nothing untoward. If you just joined us, Brendan Goddard in hospital with what looked like a serious neck injury. The great news was, as he came off the ground, he put his thumb up. He was talking all the way through on the stretcher, so our thoughts are with Brendan and his family that he's going to be okay.
Absolutely. Well, here's Broughton. He's kicked a couple today. Lovely casual approach, but just missing to the near side. So another behind to the Dockers.
Suddenly next week's grand final replay between the Magpies and the Saints has a bit of interest, a bit of glamour about it. A couple of weeks ago you'd have thought it had gone from grand final status to non-event, but the Saints are finding a bit of the old Saints footy. Played in a slightly different way, but they have achieved a great result here today. Given the ball up here, out on the full, Ibbotson to take the free kick for the Dockers. Feeds to McFarlane, to Duffield. And he just got the weight right. Fife marks it. He's about 40 out.
I want to pay some real respect. Well, the Saints played down.
2 down.
And I was glancing back at Luke McFarlane, so I've missed it, but Jason Blake is one of them. And they both look in a bad way. So we'll stick with this. Let's have a look at the replay. Oh, no, that's
gee.
Dempster.
And Blake.
And Blake. Oh, God. It was an accidental knee to the head of Dempster, who hasn't moved. Oh, and Blake's landed really awkwardly on his neck and shoulder. So we're just talking about our thoughts with Brendan Goddard, who had a bad neck injury. Now 2 more Saints down.
Well, Dempster looks the most seriously injured. That is he, hidden from view, and again looks as though the Dockers crew are out lending a hand to the Saints staff. Mentioned earlier in the day when Brendan Goddard went down that such have been St Kilda's fortunes lately, that there's been a cloud over even the golden moments, and so it's been here today. One serious injury early in the piece, and now this, with the game virtually done and dusted. Blake clutching his hand there after coming down, as though perhaps that was causing him discomfort.
Blake's fine. He's joined the pack. He's up and about, and no issue with Jason Blake. Just Sean Dempster. They brought the mobile stretcher out straight away. Talk about courage in footy, and you can't switch it on and off. Players don't decide in the last couple of minutes, this one's done and I'm not going to go back anymore. You sometimes wish they would, because it was just an issue there. Blake went back so hard, and it's accidental contact, as was the case with Goddard. It was friendly fire that cleaned Brendan Goddard up. Zach Dawson, it was his hip that did the damage to Goddard.
So another extended delay, and our coverage running a little late here with a very long opening quarter. Brendan Goddard went down with 16 seconds left in the first term, and now this has happened in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the final term. The news will be coming up at the end of our football coverage from Patterson Stadium, and Sean Dempster out like a light, you would fancy, from that. Not what anyone would want at the end of a day like this, where you wouldn't begrudge every player a cold shower and a cool drink.
Well, the ironic thing, Tim, is that we had vision earlier of the St Kilda medical staff practicing putting a patient onto the stretcher, and they've had to do it in practice twice, which is something I'm sure they never expected to have to do. Jason Blake coming from the ground, and look, he is okay, but he's clearly in some discomfort there as he limps to the bench, and he landed very awkwardly. But the real concern is for Sean Dempster.
So the doctors have got some oxygen out here with Sean Dempster, which is a common practice in this situation. Nothing to be overly alarmed about there. But we're talking, as Tim just said, about pre-game, and we spotted this in the rooms. It was the medical staff going through a practice run of what might happen in this situation. Unfortunately, they've had to put it into place twice today.
Yes, it's always disturbing to see these moments, and extended as they are by the precision which is applied by the medical and training staff, and the sight of oxygen coming out is somewhat disturbing. We saw it with Joel Selwood in round 1 in that collision he had with Farron Ray, and it has been brought out here for Sean Dempster. Such a courageous player for both Sydney and St Kilda.
What's the line? Look at that. He must be just perplexed with, we finally get our season back on track. This is the best game we played for the year. Feel as though we have really got our mojo back. Our structure is so good today. Brendan Goddard's in hospital. Sean Dempster looks as though he's going to join his good mate as well. And it's an unbelievable story, St Kilda, this year. Bounces the other way in a grand final. We're talking about the reigning premiers. Stephen Milne runs into a goal. They play a replay grand final, and then they have a whole series of events in the off-season that you just couldn't have written a script if you were trying to create a horror movie for them. And credit to them and their resilience. They've just taken time to get themselves back on track. And look, we're hopeful that neither Brendan Goddard or Sean Dempster are seriously hurt, but the look isn't great that they're going to be back out in the next couple of weeks.
They're going off at the other end of the ground where the ambulance actually bases itself, so they're going down to the left of screen. They're going off slowly. We've also been told that they're trying to put out a notice to all people at the ground to don't drive out of the ground, and just so the ambulance can actually get to the hospital, because it would be a gridlock here within 5 minutes. And there's the ambulance there, and that's the other end of the ground, so they will be going straight to Sir Charles Gardner Hospital also.
Just a reminder again that our Melbourne viewers will be taking news at the completion of this game, which isn't too many minutes away, but has been pushed back by this injury to Sean Dempster. Well, it's a day Mark Harvey would want to forget, one that St Kilda fans will remember very fondly, and one that Sean Dempster perhaps won't remember much of at all after that knock. We hope he's okay. For the coach, the job goes on. It's Fremantle's ball, and Nathan Fife is lining them up from 40 metres out. He marked that ball while those around him were colliding rather awkwardly, and with serious consequences for Dempster. In comes Fife from 45, and he manages to miss.
It's my first live look at Nathan Fife in 2011. The raps on his season have been enormous, and hasn't been a day where everything's gone his way today. 23 disposals. He's laid a couple of tackles, won some clearances, but just getting a close-up look, you can see the quality, and you can see the clean hands, you can see the penetrating kick, how well he breaks the line. So exciting prospect, the 19-year-old.
Gwilt towards half-back, and Revolt involved there, applying a good tackle. We'll get a bounce. Player underneath for Fremantle, Reece Palmer.
Been a great job. Luke McFarlane was about to talk about before that incident. Has kept Nick Revolt to just 13 disposals. McFarlane's had 18, and Revolt hasn't kicked a goal. So,
well, I was going to say a lot of those disposals have been well and truly up the ground, and he certainly hasn't looked dangerous at all. But the positive for St Kilda is that the midfielders have been able to chip in and play a role, particularly with goal kicking today.
Sorry, Chris, before I was about to say, what also has been impressive for me, you don't see many athletes that can run with Revolt the whole day, and McFarlane has been with him every single step, and Revolt hasn't worked any less hard than he does in previous weeks, and it's a rare athlete who's got that capacity to run around with that man for 4 quarters.
So, kick comes from Winmar towards the wing. Good mark taken by De Boer. Now he's got a player inside the centre square all by himself. He elected not to go there. Closing ground was peaked very quickly on that loose player as De Boer kicks towards Revolt, who's up and in front. Mark taken by Winmar. So Winmar was the sub this afternoon who came on at the end of, well, pretty much in the second quarter after Brendan Goddard went down. Fisher shares it with Gwilt. And St Kilda just playing for time here. Not the greatest of kicks back to Fisher. He's got time. Goes longer. And Farron Ray in space at half-back takes the mark.
Saints have kicked 4 goals in every quarter. Consistency has been their hallmark through this long day. They restricted Fremantle to just 1 before half-time. And the Dockers have been a little more successful since then. Here's Hill, who's been so well handled by Clint Jones. Dockers work it around and get it to Hill again, who puts it in front of Robertson, but Gwilt coming the other way. Holds up, wins the ball, gives to Ray, kicks to Del Santo. Biggest possession winner out there. Very steady, team-oriented performance from Nick Del Santo.
Seems very happy for Nick Del Santo to play defensively at the moment, Ross Lyon. So he's changed a few things up. Fisher last week played almost exclusively in the midfield. He's followed Pavlich up there today. Del Santo at half-back. Goddard started the midfield and was prepared to float across half-back before being injured. And Rewalt further up the ground as well. So a few subtle changes for Ross Lyon.
Well, another missed target by hand by the Dockers in midfield, and that has cost them severely today. Here goes Jones, who got among the goals in the first half, and he might kick one here with the wrong boot. No, he doesn't. Not so strong on the right, and he doesn't add to the 2 that he kicked in the first quarter.
That's what he does at his best too, Tim. He defends really well, shuts an opponent out of the game, but also goes the other way.
Well, there it is. The agony comes to an end for the Dockers, but it's a triumphant day for the Saints and their coach. Alas, at a high cost. Brendan Goddard in Sir Charles Gardner Hospital. Sean Dempster taken off, apparently unconscious in the dying minutes. But this is a great victory, and it resuscitates the Saints' 2011 season. The margin 46 points. St Kilda's way, dominating the game from the start. 4 goals to none in the first, 4-1 in the second. It was pretty much over by halfway.